Hey guys, this is Trent with Copter Kids. We just recently received our Freefly Alta in, and we've been getting a lot of questions and comments on it, so I figured I'd throw together a quick little review video. All right, first thing I wanted to mention, I'm not affiliated with Freefly. I bought this like everyone else. I am just a customer, so I'm gonna try to be as unbiased as I can. That being said, I am pretty impressed, so if it sounds like I'm selling one, it's because I'm pretty sold on it. Just as a quick background, I grew up flying single rotor RC helicopters. So ever since the multi-rotors came out, it's been a real struggle getting used to the very muted feel I'm getting from them and not having enough tunability to get the feeling that I was used to out of single rotors and really the maneuverability I wanted. So the big selling point for me on the Alta was the Freefly Synops, which is their flight controller, and so far I'm really impressed. It's got a lot of tunability as far as feel, and just the feel of it right out of the box is a lot better than anything I'm getting off of any of the DJI rigs or even 3DR or any of the other flight controllers I've flown for that matter. So to test this thing, we really were thinking, where can we go somewhere close that we can really demonstrate multiple features at once. So we chose Rainbow Bridge. It's a lookout over Donner Lake that's just 50 miles west of where we are in Reno. And it's a spot that we've shot a couple car commercials at, so why not go up there at sunrise and go play around. It gave us a great location to go top mount and fly under this bridge, and even though we would kind of only spend a couple batteries up there, it was really fun to be able to see how well it handled in a scenario like that and how amazing the shots can turn out really quickly. So flying this thing, as far as feel, I'm really impressed. One of the big things I was looking forward to was having manual throttle. Just because on all the DJI and some of the other flight controllers, the attitude mode, as far as their altitude hold goes, you can feel pretty cut off. And if you're in a windy condition or there's any pressures changing, I'm sure anyone that's flown these has felt where it's, it's dropping and you're not telling it to. So having manual throttle was a big selling point for me. And the amazing thing was, as soon as I started flying it, I found that their altitude hold works so well that I found myself switching into it a lot of the time. So I'd say their altitude hold works better than any other aircraft I've flown, enough so that I started using it when I didn't think I would, which is a really nice thing. The feel of this thing would be similar to probably a microcopter or microcopter board, which I like a lot. You have a direct input feel, at least response-wise, which is all tunable through the gains. If you go into the attitude gain, I believe it is the stiffness, is actually your input to response gain parameter. So basically, if you turn up the attitude stiffness, you're going to get a more responsive aircraft. The hold gain is actually the overall gain setting on it, and it's just one parameter, which is actually nice. They don't leave too much for users to mess up. If it was a full PID setup, it's just too much to do. So I really like the tuning on this and how quick and easy it is. And it's all done through an app on your phone, which is really nice as well. So we've been flying the Alta with the M15 underneath as well as on top. We're doing it pretty much full weight with a Red Epic and a cinema lens. We figured it's pretty easy to go to a lighter setup and know that it's gonna handle it right. But going to the higher weight, we can really push it and see what kind of flight times we're gonna get and what kind of temps we're gonna see on the motors and speed controllers. I was advised to really watch if we're seeing about 90 degrees Celsius on the temps through the app. That's really your warning zone, and the highest we saw was about 46 wind testing it was about 90 degrees out that day. So far we haven't seen any motor temp issues at all. As far as flight time as well, we tested at full payload and got about 10 minutes. And again, we're testing at 6,000 feet. So in theory, you should get even longer flight times than that at sea level. The one thing was, I basically flew until I was getting down to 21 volts under load. And when I brought it down, and this was before I actually got any of the battery warnings at all, and I ended up putting 90% back into our batteries. So what I've done, I cut our flight times back to 8 minutes. It's pretty conservative. I think out of all the packs that we flew yesterday, I think the most I put back in was 7,000 milliamps out of our 10,000 packs. So we're basically discharging 70% or a little less. So that's pretty good. That's a really good safe buffer. If you're ever flying in wind or you had to get more aggressive with it, you should still be able to fly 8 minutes with at full payload and be able to do that all day long. Some of the standout features of this platform are that, I mean, obviously it folds down super small, super compact, and super light with a very high payload. The way that it folds down was designed really well. I don't think it's going to be a failure point in any aspect. If anything, it's just one of the biggest strong points of it. Also, you have dual receivers that you can run. The other stuff I can say, everything is so well packaged into this. I can't tell you really where any of the wirings ran. It's just so clean, which is really nice. It's something that, you know, I think I've built a lot of these at this point, and I don't think there's any point that I could build one as clean as this. So one of the big features obviously was the top mount, which is something we've never even shot before. We went ahead and went for it to one, see what it was like, and two, see how long it took to change over. I would say it's about 10-15 minutes to take the handle off, you know, build the gimbal on top and take off landing gear legs and all that. As far as shooting, it honestly, I think the stabilization might be a little better on the top because you don't get any of the wind effects from the props blowing down on the gimbal. And the aircraft flew, I would say, just as well, if not better. Maybe not better, but it flew just as well as it does in a bottom mount, which was surprising, and it definitely looks interesting just seeing how it's, you know, balancing the camera on top. Shooting wise though, it's interesting because we did find ourselves going to kind of your, you know, at the end of a shot, how you just will pan down and look at, or tilt down and look at the world. You can't do that on this. You start looking down, you see rotors. So really the key with top mount seems to be staying really low and looking up, or finding something very steep that is either over you or around you. So we really got to play with it a little bit more. Super excited though. The top mount is a lot of fun. So one of the features Freefly is pushing on this is the silent wave technology on their motors. So what I did, we went ahead and just put an audio decibel meter to this thing, as well as we did an S1000 and the X8 I used to, well, prior to this, to lift our bigger cameras. And we did see that it is a little bit quieter. It's not a ton quieter. We were getting about 78 decibels at 10 feet from the Alta, and then the S1000 was just right above 80, 81, 82 decibels. And our big X8, which is the heaviest of them all, was right at about 84 decibels. So it's a little bit of an improvement. I will say one thing though, you don't hear the whine of the motor on these things, so I could say that the motors are probably completely silent. It's just at some point when you're flying at 30 pounds, you gotta move a lot of air. That makes some noise. So really it's a different tone you're hearing. It's just the props for the most part, which is weird at first, but it's kind of cool. If I had to pick the one thing that is my favorite part of the Alta, it would be the Synops flight controller. It's something that you can tell Freefly put a lot of time and energy into developing, and the people that develop this come from a background of being professional, you know, aerial cinematographers. Freefly Systems had its roots as Freefly Cinema, which was a services company shooting aerial video. So they really used all their experience in the industry to develop this thing, and so far I am super impressed. All the features really lend themselves into helping you get the shots you're trying to get, instead of just, you know, having random features that you don't need and won't use. So I can see how they really have thought out, even in the worst case scenario, you have your manual mode. If you know how to fly, you're gonna be able to fly this thing even when there is no GPS, even when you're in a horrible wind environment. Whatever you have to do, it seems like the Synops is rock solid. All right, so in conclusion, I would say I'm extremely impressed in this thing. It's something that I've been waiting for years, just something you can buy that will work, that will let you get your job done. Obviously, there's a couple little downfalls, being mainly just payload. I would like a little more, but you know, beggars can't be choosers. It's a fair trade-off for the size and portability and all the other pluses of this thing. It's pretty hard to knock it for anything. It's a great platform. You're going to see us flying this for a while. I'm probably just going to be buying more as backups, and as we expand to other units, I think the Alta is probably going to be our aircraft of choice. So anyone that's thinking about it, I would say go for it. I will keep everyone posted if we have any issues or if there's any unforeseen parts that I didn't mention in this review. But as of right now, this thing is rock solid, and we're into it. So it just flies that nicely.
Oh shit.